When I bought my family ranch back in 2003, I thought I was buying peace and solitude. The land stretched over 700 acres of rolling Texas hills, bordered by mesquite trees and a winding creek that glistened under the morning sun. My nearest neighbor was 3 miles away, and that's exactly how I liked it. I'm Evan Mitchell, a 52-year-old rancher, former engineer, and current owner of Mitchell Water and Resources, a mid-sized water utility that supplies several communities across the county. Most folks around here don't know that, because I keep my business life and my ranch life separate. When I'm out here, I'm just Evan from down the road, not the guy who owns the pipes that deliver their showers and sprinklers. For 20 years, my ranch had been untouched, until the Silver Creek Homeowners Association arrived. The HOA expansion. Silver Creek started as a small suburban development on the edge of town, about 15 miles east of my property. The original developers were respectful enough. They even leased some of my land temporarily for construction storage back in the early 2000s. But when they sold to a new group, a big money management company out of Dallas, everything changed. Suddenly, Silver Creek was expanding aggressively, buying up every piece of open land they could find. Their new HOA board, led by a woman named Karen Whitley, had become infamous for her arrogance. Locals joked that she ran the subdivision like a feudal kingdom. Karen wasn't your typical HOA president. She wasn't just nosy about lawn heights or mailbox colors, she was ambitious. She wanted to transform Silver Creek into a self-sustaining eco-community, and she'd been lobbying county officials to approve new developments, community wells, and even a private golf course. And that's how my nightmare began. The pipeline. One morning in early spring, I was out checking my fences when I noticed survey stakes in the ground near my north pasture. Bright orange ribbons fluttered in the wind, markings I didn't recognize. I followed them for half a mile, and they led straight toward my creek. A week later, I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery. Excavators, dump trucks, and half a dozen workers were tearing through my property like it was a public road. I stopped my ATV in front of the lead foreman and yelled, "Who gave you permission to dig here?" He looked at his clipboard and said, "Silver Creek HOA, sir. We've got clearance from the county." Clearance from the county. My private ranch. I demanded paperwork. They showed me a permit referencing parcel number 4729C, which was indeed part of my ranch, but the map they used was wrong. The HOA had filed plans with the county using outdated boundary lines from before I bought the land. "You're trespassing," I told them. "This land's been private for 20 years. They didn't stop. Instead, Karen herself arrived the next day, wearing designer sunglasses and heels, stepping out of a black SUV like she owned the place. "Mr. Mitchell," she greeted me curtly. "We have every right to be here. The county approved our expansion for a secondary water pipeline, and it cuts through here. It's public infrastructure." I almost laughed. "Public? This is private land. You can't build anything here without my consent." Her lips curved into a smug smile. "We're within our rights, Mr. Mitchell. If you have a problem, take it up with the county." Then she turned and walked off, leaving me standing in the dust while her crew kept digging. The county roadblock. I spent the next week buried in phone calls and paperwork. My lawyer confirmed what I already suspected. The HOA had indeed filed the wrong maps, but the county had rubber-stamped the permit anyway. The bureaucrats shrugged it off as a clerical oversight. The best they could offer was to review the permit process in 6 months. Meanwhile, the pipeline project continued full steam ahead. By the time I got an injunction filed, the HOA's contractors had already buried nearly a mile of pipe across my ranch, cutting through my creek and damaging a section of my irrigation system. I was furious, but instead of exploding, I decided to wait. Because I knew something Karen didn't. You see, that eco-pipeline they were laying, it wasn't just for irrigation. It was a secondary water supply, connected directly to the main Silver Creek water grid. And guess who owns the company that supplies that water? That's right, me. How it works. Through Mitchell Water and Resources, I control 3 primary groundwater wells and the main transmission pipeline that feeds Silver Creek's municipal tanks. The HOA pays for water at a commercial rate under a long-term contract negotiated years ago with the town. That contract includes a few interesting clauses, written by yours truly when I founded the company. One of those clauses states that any unauthorized modification or extension of the distribution network without written approval from the supplier constitutes a breach of service agreement. In plain English, if they build a pipeline without my permission, I can cut off their water. And legally, they can't do a thing about it. So, I waited until the project was finished. The grand opening. 2 months later, the HOA held a ribbon-cutting ceremony for their new eco-pipeline project. They posted photos online, Karen smiling beside a shiny metal valve labeled Silver Creek Secondary Flow Line. She bragged about how the system would provide long-term sustainability independent of external providers. Independent of me, she meant. They didn't realize that their new, independent, system was still drawing water from my company's mainline. It was like building an extra straw into the same glass, except I owned the glass. That's when I called my operations manager, Darren, and said, "Pull up Silver Creek's feed data." He replied, their consumption just spiked 40% this month. "Yeah," I said with a smile. "Let's flag it as unauthorized expansion. Then schedule a maintenance review for next week." The cutoff. On a bright Monday morning, I drove down to the main pumping station with Darren. We shut down the Silver Creek valve for routine maintenance, as per policy. Within an hour, my phone lit up with calls, first from HOA board members, then from Karen herself. "Mr. Mitchell," she shrieked through the phone. "Our entire community has no water. Do you have any idea what's going on?" I said, pretending to think. "Must be something with your new pipeline. You didn't get that approved through our engineering department, did you?" "That's none of your business," she snapped. "Oh, but it is," I said, letting the smile creep into my voice. Section 4, Subparagraph C of your service agreement, unauthorized modification. "You breached the contract." She went silent. Then she tried to recover. "You can't just shut off our water. We'll sue." "Actually," I replied, "I can. And if you check your mail tomorrow, you'll find a notice of contract termination. You'll have 30 days to arrange a new supplier." You can't do that." She stammered. "I can," I said simply. "And I will." Then I hung up. The fallout. Within a day, the HOA descended into chaos. Hundreds of homeowners had no running water. They couldn't shower, flush toilets, or water their fancy lawns. The local news picked up the story. Silver Creek HOA faces water crisis after contract dispute. Karen held an emergency meeting, claiming the evil utility company was blackmailing them. She demanded that the county intervene, but the county reminded her that the HOA had acted outside its permit. In other words, they were on their own. By week's end, Silver Creek had to truck in water at astronomical costs just to keep residents supplied. Portable toilets appeared in driveways. The once perfect lawns turned brown. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet, just an old rancher watching from a distance. The reckoning. 2 weeks later, I received an official request for mediation. The HOA board, now desperate, wanted to meet with me to resolve the misunderstanding. When I walked into their conference room, Karen's smug confidence was gone. She looked exhausted, her perfect hair frizzy from stress. "Mr. Mitchell," she began, forcing a smile, "this whole thing's been a huge miscommunication. We didn't realize the boundaries had shifted." I raised a hand. "You built a pipeline across private land, without permission, and tapped into a municipal supply illegally. That's not a miscommunication. That's trespass and contract breach." One of the board members tried to interject, "Surely there's some way we can reach an agreement." "There is," I said. "You'll remove every inch of that pipeline from my property, restore the land to its original condition, and pay for all damages. Then, and only then, will I consider reinstating your water contract." Karen's jaw tightened. "Do you know what that will cost us?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Roughly what it would have cost to ask permission first." The cleanup. The HOA had no choice. Over the next month, I watched as their crews returned to my ranch, this time under my supervision. Every foot of pipe they'd illegally buried was dug up and hauled away. They even had to rebuild part of my creek bank where their machines had torn it up. Karen came out one last time to inspect the work. She tried to act civil. "You really showed us, didn't you?" she said bitterly. I shrugged. "No, Karen, I showed you what happens when you think you're above everyone else." She didn't reply. She just got into her SUV and drove off, leaving a trail of dust behind. A final twist. Months later, the county sent me a letter, an official apology, plus confirmation that my property lines had been updated in the system. They even fined the HOA for their permit misrepresentation. But the real satisfaction came a few weeks after that, when the HOA applied for a new water contract. I reviewed their application personally. And I approved it, with one small modification. Their new rate would be 35% higher than before, classified as high-risk commercial. When Karen saw the terms, she protested. "You can't just raise our rates like this." I smiled. "Sure I can. You're lucky I didn't charge for damages too." Epilogue. A year later, Silver Creek's expansion dream had fizzled out. Their Eco Pipeline project was never rebuilt. Karen eventually resigned, citing personal reasons, though everyone in town knew the truth. As for me, I still ride my ATV across that same north pasture every morning. The grass has grown back, the creek flows clear again, and peace has returned. Sometimes I stop at the spot where the first excavator dug into my land and think about how easily arrogance blinds people. The HOA thought they could bully a quiet rancher. They never imagined that the man they were pushing around owned the very water flowing through their faucets. Out here, you learn that everything, from the wells beneath the ground to the rivers that feed the valleys, is connected. And sometimes, when you mess with the flow, it comes back to drown you. So, to any future developers who think they can take what isn't theirs, I have one piece of advice. Always check who owns the water.